Ladies and gentlemen, guess what time it is? That's right. Your favorite podcast. The award-winning Questlove Supreme. I got it right.
Yeah.
Finally. We are the award-winning Questlove Supreme. Yeah, here with Team Supreme. It's Questlove. You know what time it is. Tigolo, what's up, brother?
What up, man? What's happening?
We're in the daytime. When's the last time we did a daytime joint?
It's been a minute. It's been a good minute.
Yeah.
Like he hits a little different in the daylight.
Oh, you like that? Oh, is that a good thing? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, it is.
Thought that was get back from the other night.
No. I hate you for that. Yo, can we talk about that night?
Can we really quick? Yes, I would really like to talk about that night.
Which night?
That was
so Amir had an experience. Would you like to tell everybody about your experience?
No, it was random. I mean, I was in LA, and I'm Philly to the bone, and just happened to have a night off when Miss Jill Scott finally got around to after a false pandemic start, celebrating the 1-year anniversary of her landmark Who is Jill Scott tour.
Yeah,
Did it from beginning to end. It was just that just from outside eyes, I could see how random and weird and motley that crew looked walking
the crew
in.
You were sitting with the crew that you walked in with, because
yeah,
you walked in quite Philly gangster.
I'm Philly. Me and Quinta are really, really good friends. You know,
allegedly, we don't know according to this podcast, because all your friends. Well, no, your friends don't come on this podcast. So she is a good friend. Yes.
Well, right. She's notoriously shy, but yeah. I'll say the random part. No, I was hanging with, my crew, and Quinta happened to roll with us, and just out of nowhere, and Laia correctly, you're very correct, and thank you for your pre-warning. There's some people who's, like James Brown won't let you call him James or James Brown. You have to call him Mr. James Brown. We already have our own. We have Miss Lauryn Hill. So just randomly at the last minute, my boy Silbert, who is Jill's tour manager and sometimes Roots tour manager, said, hey, I got to stick somebody in your section. And I came back, and basically it was Lisa. I'm sorry. It was Lisa Ray.
Oh, wow.
But
I had to let him know. Basically, Amir didn't know that Lisa Ray is always Lisa Ray. She's never Lisa. So when Amir said that she was going to be showing up, I said, well, you just make sure you don't never slip and call her Lisa. Her name is Lisa Ray.
Right. And so I warned everybody that we are to address her as Lisa Ray and not, hey, Lisa, or whatever. And, by then our treats had already kicked in. So it was really hard explaining that to people. So I think we overdid it. And every 3 seconds we were just like,
oh, shit.
Hey, Lisa Ray, would you like some wine? Hey, Lisa Ray, would you like a blanket? Lisa Ray, can you see? Lisa Ray, like literally.
I would also like the world to know that this was Questlove's first time sitting in the audience of the Hollywood Bowl at the blackest Hollywood Bowl event probably of the year. One of the blackest ones.
I've never sat in the audience before at the Hollywood Bowl. I didn't know that you could bring your own food. No, it was for those that are regular Hollywood Bowl attendees. Like, it was nothing. Like I didn't know that you were supposed to bring your own bottle and whatever. So let's just say Laia was getting a kick out of watching you go to the stand, buy you a blanket, do all the things. You ain't bring your own blanket, man. You're supposed to bring your being
blanket.
Being a civilian. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah. I enjoyed being a civilian. Anyway, unpaid bill. What's up, bro?
I don't know, man. I feel like my day's all fucking weird because we're doing this in the middle of the day, and I don't know. I'm great though. I just feel like this usually ends the day. Now it's the beginning of the day. And my shit's
You're usually working.
So you want a day drink?
No, not today. Maybe.
All right. Sugar Steve.
Hey everybody! Do I hit differently in the daytime as well, Quest?
Yes, we can see your face now. You normally have the darkest room out of all of us, so No, we're good.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's I asked you how you doing, right?
Yeah, you did. It was Fonte.
No, I asked you all. Okay, just wanted to make sure I covered you all.
Oh, that's nice. Good.
All right, so this episode definitely a long time coming. I will say that our guest, along with his brother Rich, is a founding member of the rock group The Black Crowes. Sorry about that. Let me rewind. No, actually, for the last 37 years, our guest today has been beloved patriarch Jack Hamilton on The Bold and the Beautiful, and also the voice of Vic's Formula 44 for the last 47 years. No. Let me try this one more time.
How many are there?
Yo, all right. So, look, first of all, I will say on video directing credits alone, I know that we've elevated to movies and to production and whatnot, but I will probably say that I think that our guest today, that his canon of music videos has probably saved and somewhat defined the best moments of BET and MTV. I mean, literally, like, dude, I didn't even know that you directed the Doo Doo Brown video.
Oh yeah, I'm from Baltimore.
Can we just start there? Can we start there?
Two hype brothers and a dog. Wow.
Ooh,
Which Doo Doo Brown?
But our introduction to Alicia Keys came through his lens, you know. Dude, like A-Marie, like we can go on. It just literally Alicia Keys, A-Marie, directed, name it, Wild for the Night,
Everything.
Lord, all the miracles that he's done with Outkast. We can't even go there, but dude, my favorite Brandy videos, Full Moon. I didn't know that you did that. I know what you want. How did you handle the entire Flip Mode squad? I want to see just the treatment. I want to see the entire treatment. I just want to know how, from 1 to 10, what was the headache level of Advil you had to take for that entire Buster Mariah Flip Mode video experience? And by the way that you're staring at me, I can tell that that day was very heady for you. But no, literally, you've directed some of these crazy, innovative videos, dude. So anxious.
Bad Boy for Life. Bad Boys for Life.
I'm just saying, just literally name it. Like from he's literally directed. If we named his entire canon, the episode would be over by now.
Yeah, it was.
That's how important it is. But
just on the New Edition story, just alone, just that.
Yeah, but I was about to say, between the New Edition story, between Star,
Shooting Stars, yeah, man, awesome.
You've done various Wu-Tang saga, like you are. I feel like
he did Yvonne Orangey's Mama, I Made It. Yvonne was on our show too. Like, it's just all of the things.
And that's the episode. Yeah. So thank you very much, Chris, for joining us. No, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Robinson is joining our Chris Robinson.
Yes, sir.
Our Chris Robinson. Yes.
What's happening? What's going on?
I gotta admit, there was a slight who's on first situation when Laia, Brittany, and cousin Jake brought you up. It's like, yo, Chris Robinson wants to do the show. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went to a Bruce Springsteen concert. You already know where this shit's going. I went to a Bruce Springsteen concert like a month and a half ago, and I saw Black Crowes, Chris Robinson, and kind of had a who's on first conversation in the elevator. I was like, yeah, so I hear you're about to do the show with us. And I think he thought I was talking about the Tonight Show.
Right.
So just cut to like just 10 minutes of going in circle before I realized, yeah, I don't think he's coming on Questlove Supreme. So.
Because Chris Rob. Oh, that show. I got it. Okay.
Right. I saw Black Crowes, Chris Robinson.
You got a story with Chris Robinson?
Chris Robinson, Atlanta, Georgia, at the Four Seasons in the lobby. Somebody's calling for Chris Robinson. I show up and he shows up. It should have been like a Dave Chappelle skit. And then he goes, do you know everybody thinks I'm a video director? And I said, do you know everybody thinks that I play rock and roll? We had a conversation. Yeah, it was dope. Yeah,
all it takes is you got to direct a Black Crowes video, and then the circle's complete.
There
Supernova.
Let's set that up.
You know what? yo, Chris, I know this not knowing what your everyday life is, but one of the strangest nights in rock star kind of existence I've ever had. You were a part of it. I don't even know if you remember it. Do you remember the night that I came to Atlanta? I don't even think you took me. I think you just happened to be there, and you became like my, like whoever your guide is on the first day of kindergarten, or whoever your guide is on your first day in prison. It's almost the same thing, equivalent. I went to, it wasn't what's Atlanta's most popular gentleman's it wasn't Magic
Club.
City.
Gentleman's Club.
It wasn't Magic City though.
It was Nikki's or Gentleman's Club.
It was somewhere on that level, but
I remember. Yeah, I forgot where we were. We were somewhere that was like legitimately, if you are from Atlanta, you frequent this spot.
Right. Someone told me like, to go to Magic City is almost like some tourist shit. Like,
right.
Don't go to Magic City, and you're only going to go to what's the one that has the letter C in it. That's
Claremont Lounge.
Yeah, the Claremont. Claremont for novelty
Mm.
purposes only.
Right. Oh yeah.
Never heard of that one.
But
novelty
the actual natives and locals go to the spot that I went to. I forget the name of it. And I've never seen, like, I thought like, we'll go to this spot in Vegas or something like that. I've never seen no shit like this in my life, where 20 minutes into the experience, I realized that the whole purpose of that establishment wasn't even the women. Like, they just happened to be there dancing. It was about
breakfast.
It's about defying the laws of gravity. And how much muscle power do you have to grab a stack, throw it up in the air, and keep it up in the air before the last dollar drops? And I believe that they had like a counter on the wall, like people breaking records, like who can make it rain
the longest,
keep their dollars in the air the longest. And I never seen a spot with its own banking system.
Wow.
Like, so a very much well-loved ball player that's near and dear to my hometown. And I will say at that point, he was a young startup in the ATL. They were basically having I don't know, whose dick is bigger contest on whose dollars can stay up in the air more. And literally, like, I'm watching someone wheel out $100,000 in fives to this table, and this person has to outdo that table, and then said other luminaries are trying to, and literally, like, I've never seen. At one point, said ball player threw up maybe 20,000, and this is when my afro was out, and I was rocking that was in my what do you call it? Freedom Fighter for slaves at a part.
Nat Turner.
Not Nat Turner.
Frederick Douglass.
Yes, Frederick Douglass. I'm sorry. I was about to say Fred Rerun Barry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, and I remember $200 had landed in the part of my afro. And naturally, I was just going to grab the shit, and Chris like, don't do that. They'll come and get it. And I was like, huh? And literally, I was about to do that, and security was like, no. Like, I couldn't, you couldn't touch the money. Like, literally, I've never seen no shit like that in my life. Is that night just indicative of what the strip club experience is? Because we weren't even like at the tables. We were just by the bar, just chilling, watching it.
You know what, brother? That is when the money goes up, you can't touch it on its way down, because that's it. Like I've seen situations where guys have reached for the money on the floor and it ain't good. So, I could not have my brother reaching for any
You
money.
saved my life, bro. And literally, I just wanted to take it out my hair to give it to, like, is this someone's, like, who's...
But you can't do that because you ain't throw it. See, you can't act like you giving it to somebody because somebody else threw it.
Well, not that. It was on my person. You know.
There it is.
It wasn't possession was 9/10 of the law, you know, or whatever. I don't know. Very surreal. Are you still in Atlanta right now as we speak?
I am not. I'm in Los Angeles. You know what's funny? People think I'm from Atlanta, but I'm actually from Maryland.
I know.
I thought you were from Atlanta.
Yeah, and I live in LA now. So I still go back and forth to Maryland, but I think I just did so many videos and I did ATL that people think that I'm from Atlanta. Mm-hmm. But I love Atlanta. Shout out Atlanta all day.
There you go. All right, man. You have such a wide canon of work, man. I got to start. Like, what was your? So normally, you know, we have mostly musicians on the show, but for you, how do you? What's your beginning step to becoming a linchman? Like, how does this happen?
Well, like many other people, when you're young in the beginning, I just knew I was going to be in the NFL. Like, you know. Then I realized when I went to college that I was slow and short and weak to be in the NFL. What
position did you play?
Nose guard.
Oh, you was nose. Okay.
Yeah,
I played fullback.
Oh, really? Oh, well, you for real? You for real? I
played some nose in high school too. I love nose, man. It was in the trenches. I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, there was.
I'm gonna pretend I know what a nose guard is.
I was like, yo, I know football, but I don't think I know what that is.
I saw Lyons' face, and I'm like, yeah, it's safe to ask this question. Go ahead.
What do you think it is?
A nose guard?
Yeah.
You want a pie in the face moment this early in the day, Bill?
No, I'm good. Moving on.
Nose guard. Are you in the center? Is that a defensive position? Is that an offensive position?
Nose guard is offensive. Is a defensive position. So the center is the one that snaps the ball to the quarterback. That's the offensive position. The nose guard is like generally right in front of the center, like you right in the middle, you know what I mean, on the defense. So you trying to penetrate the O-line, get to the QB.
Yeah, and basically,
you know what that means, like
penetrate the offensive line to get to the quarterback. Come on, man.
Yeah,
come on.
And basically, if you just plug up the hole, which means you know 3 dudes, you know, hit you in the back and the ribs and the chest, then you did your job. Just clog it up.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Make it so the running backs ain't got nowhere to go.
Clog it up.
Clog it up. But so, you know, that went quick. But when I went to college, I discovered filmmaking. I went to you know, just took Film 101 and I was like, this is interesting. And then I read Spike Lee's book, She's Gotta Have It. And it was like he wrote this specifically to me. And blew my mind. And then at that point, you know, I was off and running.
Most filmmakers I know like either went to NYU or that sort of thing. Like, what was your first steps into it?
No, it was more, you know, independent, figuring it out. You know, I went to school in Cali, went back home, took all kind of odd jobs, but I used to put flyers in the record store. Need a video? Call me. Literal flyer. Yeah, man. Now here's the tough part, because you know, you from Philly, you know, like it was so much like club music in Baltimore versus hip hop. Right. So hip hop artists were few and far between, but the hip hop artists that were there, everybody went through this one record store. And so I got a couple joints, you know, I was learning about getting $10,000 in a brown paper bag, you know, from some cats doing their video. And Frank Ski, you mentioned earlier, Doo-Doo Brown.
Which Doo-Doo Brown, right.
Was a DJ. And then they got in touch with me. And we did 2 different Doo-Doo Browns. One of the dude, his boy, Stanley Evans, he lived close to me. So he was at a rival high school back in the day. So, and you know, Frank was the guy in Baltimore. Like he ran everything. So
were they radio personalities?
Yes.
Frank was, yeah.
Yes.
Were they ever Philly? Did Frank Ski ever come to Philly at all?
Frank went to Atlanta. Remember, Frank went to Atlanta and was in Atlanta for like 20 years. And then he came back. Now he's in DC. So that's probably why you're confused, because when you were visiting Atlanta, you may hear him.
Okay. I know that voice, but
like the early aughts.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I
But
didn't even know he went back to DC.
now he's on the radio in DC now. He's on I believe he's on HUR, Howard station.
Okay.
But question, because you mentioned Baltimore, that means like you came up in a time of Frank Ski and like Miss Tony, right? Like, can you talk
Pull
about
your
that?
guns
Because
out.
come on, people don't talk about Baltimore. Come on, please. Listen.
So is this the beginning of what we call Baltimore House?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it was always around because I know. I'll tell you, I'm from Baltimore, but every Friday night you turn on the radio and it was just house, and I hated it. You know, so I would go over to Morgan State's station because they would play hip hop late at night. But
I used to work there.
Really?
Yeah, I went to Morgan. Yeah, I worked at that radio station.
Oh, that's good. Have you been up there lately? It's beautiful.
Hey guys, so he is now from Baltimore in this episode.
No, it's just been a long life. I'm so sorry. Two years of college at Morgan State. I'm living in Dutch Village. So yeah,
okay. Good chicken.
Yeah, but continue your story. I apologize.
No, that's really it, you know. And we so being at home, doing those videos, meeting Frank, doing Dude Brown, and then there was a contest. This is gonna blow your mind. There was a contest on a show called Pump It Up.
Yes.
Pump It Up.
Pump It Up.
Yeah.
So the contest was to remake LL Cool J's Booming System. So I got my brother. We borrowed somebody's Jeep. I got all my cousins. I got some friends, and we shot it in back of Morgan State. And you know, it was a syndicated show, so it was national. So we sent in the VHS tape, and we won. And it was crazy. We were like, "What?" Excuse me. We won. So the prize was you get to go to New York. It was when Mama Said Knock You Out came out. You got to go to New York and have dinner with LL and his grandmother and his mother and all the executives
Not me.
at Def Jam. You know what I'm saying? So it was dope.
So tell us about it, because then what did anything ever come of that?
Well, yes, it did, because it's some of the best advice I ever got in the business. So
was Paris Barkley there?
Oh no, but I met Paris Barkley later.
Okay.
Right. So I'm sitting with LL, and we are 19, 20 maybe. And so I'm going, yo, son, I'm gonna rhyme against LL. Have the camera ready.
What?
I forgot to tell you, I always also thought I was gonna be a rapper. Like,
oh boy.
See what I'm saying? These are all the young boy aspirations, you know.
Boy.
Every single thing you can do in the hood, from a barber to NFL to rap, ended up in film. But so we have a beautiful dinner, man. I get to meet his mom, LL, the whole thing. And, you know, at one point, I give my boy the camera and I go, okay, yo, man, let's battle. And LL just kind of smiles. There's a slight chuckle, and he goes, listen, brother, you're very talented. What you should do is get the number of every one of these people here. Because, you know, there were interns and assistants and people who would at Def Jam who were given the job to deal with this contest and this, you know, crazy kid from Baltimore. And he said, because you need to have your industry contacts. So he wouldn't rhyme against me, thank God, because then that would be somewhere out in the universe by now. But all those people I was with turned into presidents and executives of the highest level, and I worked with them my whole career.
Told you.
Yeah, man.
Damn. See, tomorrow's intern is the future president. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Was he always that presidential? Even as you speak now, he's literally texting me like, we're working together post that Grammys thing. We're doing something right now, like a project together. Has he always been that presidential?
LL?
Yes.
Listen, man, he has always been, he's, you know, like there's a fabric that is for the camera, and then there's something behind it. He's always been the same. From me, I've been on 125th Street, and he rolls up in a Bentley and rolls down the window and goes, "Hey, Chris, how you doing?" and pulls off, and it's like, wow.
Grey Poupon commercial.
Exactly. Like, he's super solid. I worked with him on a project during COVID where we did these performances like in the most storied places because it was COVID, right? And we did the Troubadour with him, and just connecting with him and having the pre-pro calls. It's straight business, but it's love, and he keeps it moving. He's a bad dude.
Okay, so when you are trying to really make, well, first I want to know what was the result of that first round of networking for you. But I believe at this time, kind of with the rules of Black success, it's like one person can get in the door. So, I assume that by this time, Lionel Martin is the gatekeeper. So in your eyes, is it like I got to get to Lionel C. Martin level? Like he's the guy. Like I know that Hype Williams told me that he used to sweep the floors for Lionel Martin, and I know that Paul
Hunter.
Yeah, Paul Hunter did the same thing for Hype. So it's almost like a thing. Like, so did you have to be an apprentice for an established video director before you were truly allowed to run your own thing, or you just came in the door as a video director?
Yeah, I as I was going through this process, I also worked in the promo department at Fox 45 News in Baltimore, and any movie that came through. I was a PA on Meteor Man. Robert Townsend.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, what you learned there?
Baltimore.
Yeah.
This is what I learned. This might not sound good for the kids.
That's okay.
I was like, oh hell no. I'm a director. Like, I'm young, super young, but I go, I'll put it to you this day. After working there for weeks, as a PA, most of the time you're not able to go on the set. You're not able to participate. You're doing the dirty work. Same. And I put my son through the same torture. So
for our listeners out there,
right.
What does that entail?
It is picking up trash. It's cleaning out toilets in the Winnebago. It's going to get coffee. It's if an artist needs medicine, you go get it in whatever way you have to do it. You're the runner. So one night we were working overnight. So call time was 5 p.m. and we'd work until 7 a.m. We were in Baltimore, humid. It's 100 and some degrees as the sun starts to come up. And there was a scene where all the neighbors on each side of the block threw things out the window with Meteor Man. And so the AD came to us, our PA group, and said, okay, you see each square in the sidewalk? I want you to go to that square, take a photograph, and then a Polaroid. Then I want you to take a box and put each thing in that box. So when we pick this up later tonight, we can place everything in the exact
what's in it.
Continuity. Right. As we looked at that 3-block radius, and everybody said, okay, well, we're going to be here another 5 hours. After working for 12 hours, I was like, this shall be my last day as a PA. And I'm going to tough it out. So that day I left the set. I was like, I don't even care if you pay me. I'm out. And I dipped. And I told Robert this story. I saw him recently. Yeah. And that's the first time he knew that I worked as a PA on his thing. But I think what it did is that it really motivated me, man. Like it had me going to New York on the Amtrak with $15 in my pocket, going to set in the lobby. I just wanted anybody to have my demo tape, which wasn't that good to tell you, down that I know. But I bugged somebody, Fred Fellman was a guy at Relativity Records. And Relativity had shut down. but I called him every day. So he was the only guy in the office because I met him later and he was telling me about it. He goes, yo, you used to call me every day, but nobody was in the office. We had like went bankrupt or something, but we had whatever Relativity was doing, they were kind of going from the Run DMC era to this new era, and these new artists. Okay. So finally he hit me up and said, yo, I got an artist named Smooth the Hustler.
Oh, you mean, are you talking about
Profile Records?
Profile, yeah.
Yeah, they were on Profile.
Corey, Profile? I thought they moved over to Profile. I'm sorry.
Yes.
So Profile, and then that's where I got my real start in New York.
And so you did Smooth the Hustler, the Broken Language? Was that?
I did. Yeah. Before that, I did Smooth's joint. It was just him. Then his brother him and Trigger got together, and they did Broken Language. But I ended up doing like 4 or 5 joints for them. They would come to Maryland. We would have a barbecue. We would like make posters and like have our own release parties. It just was. It was never about the money because you know my idea of success was if I could get a pair of Timbs, I was good. You know, after doing the video,
he's from Baltimore.
Straight, you know, from
Baltimore.
They weren't black Air Force Ones though. They was butter Tim. I would get. If I could get Tim's, that was it, and that's how the love part, you know, of doing it began.
How did you back then when you first started? What was your method for creating? Like, did you have to get with the artist first, or did you just present the artist with your idea? Like with I guess with Smooth, like what was the?
Oh yeah, I'd go up, meet him. You know, what's funny is I think back, I was so naive that I just thought everybody was friends. Everybody was cool. Like it was just somebody you would meet. And I would go up and I'd go straight to the heart of Brooklyn. And I was meeting M.O.P. and DR Period. And I was meeting all these dudes who were still in the street. And I'd be sitting on their stoop going, okay, guys, so here's the treatment. I would break out the treatment and just kind of, you know, so there were some storyboards connected to it. And I think, you know, they were like, yo, this kid is serious. So there was a certain trust that we got. And you know, we would always just try to shoot everything. But back then it was like, you know, their mother would cook for us when we were in Brooklyn shooting, and we would go to Carolina Kitchen around the corner over there in Brooklyn. And it was just, that was the start. And I think it's funny because just along with technology and how things change, just word would spread. Then I'd get a call from this artist. Then I would get a call from Fat Joe. And then that relationship started. That turned into, then I get a call from Puff. Then I get a call from Jay. It was very much a smaller community. And it wasn't a phone call or a Zoom. You went up to the office and you sat there and you had the conversation before you really did any work. So there was a certain, you know, you had to be vetted by the person.
All right, let me ask a question. As a person who, especially in the prime of their career, you know, I'm the person that would micromanage album credits, the engineering of a song, the photographer for like the art direction of our album, but I hated the process of video making. And you can clearly tell, like even with the whole what they do situation.
Yeah.
Like I literally had no clue that we were referencing One More Chance because that's how indifferent I was. Like I was napping. I was napping in the trailer. Like I only came when it was my time to do a scene. And even when we watched the credits or whatever, I don't know. I just felt like maybe it was the deprecation thing. Like, we're so motley looking, like this ain't getting on television. So it's almost like
you weren't thinking as a director back then, and even telling these many stories. Yeah,
it's the equivalent of like a kid with a bad report card that waits till like 6 a.m. to ask their parents to sign the shit. Like, Mom, Dad, sign this real quick, or this permission slip. Like when you're asleep at 6 a.m, that sort of thing. That's so for me. What I learned though. What I learned was, I think, especially when record labels, you know, there's certain artists that will get an unlimited budget, they have a little wiggle room for creativity. But how do you deal with an artist that has high expectations for their video, but not the video budget?
You know what? I think I was so close, when we were there, is like I was like, yeah, let's go. Like I never said no to anything. Now my producer was, having a
The
stomach
producer's
ache.
the bad guy. You're
Yeah.
Oh,
Who's your producer?
My producer for the last 20 years has been Roseanne Cunningham. As soon as we opened Robot, like we stuck together this whole time.
That's dope.
So she was the bad cop to your good cop.
Yeah, she wasn't only the bad cop to the label, she'd be the bad cop to me. She'd be like, Chris, we're shutting these lights off. And back then, which is a youthful mistake, I'd go,
Right.
well, take part of my fee. I was always throwing my fee in for an extra lights or an extra hour, just because, she was trying to make sure I didn't bankrupt our company, because that's you just wanted it to be. Because I always say, like, it's funny because back then we were all fighting for like maybe 100 slots in the country, right? There was TRL, but that didn't play a lot of hip hop. There was 106 in Park, and then of course Ralph McDaniels, but there wasn't where there's a million slots every hour now.
Yeah.
Because you go to YouTube, there was a certain amount. So when hip hop got serious, it became a business that was generating money. Those big budgets were a reaction to let's win the slot. How does this competition? Hype Williams is doing this. Like, how do we get there? Like, how do we create? And there was a lot of creativity put into it. And so I would always go, yes, let's try to achieve beyond what the number is, So yeah.
you would aim high for a lower budget instead of aiming lower, making your budget high, like aiming for good lower. You would just aim higher anyway.
I didn't even know what aiming good lower was. I mean, just to be real, now I do. Now I know it makes sense as a filmmaker to go, okay, let's do this really well because we have this amount of money and this amount of resources, or let's change our idea. Like once that treatment was written and they chose it, I really kind of took it on myself to like, we got to make it work.
I also came from a world where, at Geffen Records, they would always throw in my face, hey man, we shot Smells Like Teen Spirit for $90,000, like a gymnasium,
of course,
two cameras. So yeah, they would always say to me, like, it's in the song, it's in the spirit of the performance. It's not, we don't need this car or this mansion, or I mean, not like we wanted a car or mansion, but I at least like my thing was I would always fight for like Spike Jones, like because I want to just do crazy off kilter things,
right?
And we were just always under budget. So I mean, after Doodoo Brown, what do you feel like your first video was that really established you as in like, all right, flag planting, there's a new sheriff in town, his name is Chris Robinson?
I would say Peter Guns and Lord Tariq. Uptown Baby.
Yeah.
How did you pull off that Yankee shot?
Okay, yeah. Well, first of all,
I gotta know that.
All right, this is the first time I'm telling this story.
Yeah,
so
exclusive.
We, of course, we want to be uptown. We want to be in Yankee Stadium, and this is the beauty of that era and music videos. My producers got all the way up to George Steinbrenner, right? Like we were coming, bringing hip hop to Yankee Stadium, and at the end of the day, he said no, and we were devastated. And then this may be sacrilegious for all the New York people.
Don't say Mets.
We went to the Mets Stadium. We went to Queens, and I was like, how do we make this look like Yankee Stadium? And we did our best, but see, you didn't know. But I'm telling you, said, how did you get the Yankee shot? And
are you
but
serious?
So why did y'all think it was the Yankees then? How did y'all think it was the Yankees? I'm sitting here looking. I'm like, how did y'all?
Uptown, but like I just assumed.
Okay, you just
there
assumed.
was,
Okay.
But they were also wearing like Yankee shit. How did you pull that off?
Exactly. That's the director has to go. How do you draw the eye? Everybody had on Yankee jackets, but then you also had everybody from the Bronx, Pun, Joe, all these cats were in the audience. We had like, instead of them having beer and hot dogs, there was like champagne bottles that the guy would walk around with. And we got to get on the field. We got to see the scoreboard. And
how did you hook that up though? So that
listen, we went all that's how serious it became. Like we would move like a feature film.
But did the Mets know what you were doing directly?
I don't think so. I don't think they,
It's very much Shea Stadium though, man. Now that I know, that's wild.
Yeah,
it's like that blue is so different. Yeah,
exactly. But that was a beautiful day.
Wow, that is. I also know that. As a director, second nature for you has to be Jedi mind tricking. Oh, yeah. And I know, again, like your producer has to be the bad guy or the shield. You know, your producer has to know if you're singing with a certain chanteuse, a certain singer, that there might be 300 seconds in her minute, you know. So you might have to tell people like, okay, the shoot's at 4:00 and then they show up at 9:00 or whatever, which is what you wanted them to do in the first place or whatever. But like, how do you immediately know that you're dealing with like that level of Jedi mind tricking with your artist?
You can only Jedi mind trick so much, right? And that's in your schedule, right? But it's plan B that's the most important part, right? Like when you set your day up, be prepared to shoot all the other stuff you need in case somebody comes 6 hours late. And 6 hours late.
So you do your B shots first?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Is that general for you, or is that video making 101?
I think it's a learned behavior. You know what I'm saying? Like, I started off like, once you set everything up and you set the first shot and you set the lights and we were sitting there waiting, sitting on Apple boxes, you just learn because the artist eventually shows up. It's their money, it's their music video, but you may not get your whole creative off like you wanted it. The video might not be as dope as you want it to be. So you figure out ways just to get the video to your vision. And, when you get repeat business, you would learn like, oh, N.O.R.E is going to be 3 hours late. There was a tweaking of like, some people were 20 minutes late. Some people were early, and you better show up and be there on time. And so once you kind of got that repeat business, you kind of understand who did what.
Did you have a, okay.
Oh, no, go ahead, Lane.
I was just going to ask, we talked about you reading the Spike Lee book, but like, did you have a mentor in this game? And along with that question, what other influences are a part of your work that we may not know when it comes to direction?
No mentor, no real mentor. It was,
you are the roots of directing.
No. There you go.
You walk in the door like, okay, how do I do this? Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was. And because of all of the times in Baltimore, nothing scared me, right? Because I was already dealing with all of these guys who how can you say it? The stakes were very high, right? You had to get this right. So I was like in a playground, man. I just was like going, and I was like, oh my God, they're gonna let me do this. Mm-hmm. And then you take the next step. Oh, we got another phone call. I think I'm gonna quit my job, and then it just builds from there. But no real mentor, and I was looking for that early, along with doing Judy Brown and all that. Like there'd be movies that came through Baltimore or
Mm-hmm.
TV shows, and nobody, when you're in that zone of a PA, nobody really has time for you, right?
Yeah.
And most of them aren't like your people. So that's what happened in the music video, is I was embraced by people like me who just happened to be the big star or the big executive. Kevin Lyles is from Baltimore.
Yeah, I was about to ask you.
We had him on the show. Yeah.
Yeah, we had him on. Yeah. So did you guys know each other early on when he was coming up? I know he's an elder.
Kevin Lyles. I knew Kevin Lyles. I knew of Kevin Lyles. He was like a legend because he had a song in Baltimore, and he was an artist first. So all of us in Baltimore, exactly, the New Marks. Yeah. And we were just, he was a legend. And then he was at Def Jam, and we were like, oh my God, like I can't imagine how many people from Baltimore called Kevin Lyles, because he was our one guy in the music business, right? So I think everybody was
but when did he know you was from Baltimore, though? There was a moment when he went, oh shit.
Oh yeah. I can't remember. I know he it's funny. I've seen Russell Simmons more than I've seen Kevin.
Wow.
Right? Because he was
most white people also think that Kevin is Russell Simmons also. And Kevin's been catching a lot of hell this week.
Oh yeah. Yikes.
You already know.
Yeah. Well,
I was like, all right, how many people? Yeah, don't even talk about it. Yeah, okay.
Poor baby.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So, well, actually, you said with rappers that you thought like everyone knew each other. I just automatically assumed, especially because Black directors that finally get let past the velvet rope, that you guys automatically know each other and hang with each other.
They do.
So, I mean, let me ask, like, is it territorial pissing? Like once you're established, were you phone buddies with in your beginning, like with a Lionel or a Hype or a Sanji or were people pretty much very competitive and just kept to themselves?
Absolutely competitive, right?
Okay.
Because we were all signed to companies, right? So it's really interesting. They knew what they were doing. The companies really understood, like, oh wow, we're getting $500,000. We're breaking the director off, a percentage of that. But the more this business of hip hop grows, the more of these guys we want. So some of us ended up at the same companies. But to answer your question, competitive all day. For me, Lionel Martin was like a North Star, like his work, his creativity, his just what he was able to bring. But then when you met all the other people who were like his line producer, his art director, like just being in New York and working on things, there was a cross-pollination, because all those people that are below the line, which is a whack term, but the people who the craftsmen, they're working on everybody's stuff. So they may even go, hey man, Lionel, I just work with this kid Chris, or I just work with this kid X, and you get known. But I think for us, Hype and Lionel, first it was Lionel, of course, but then Hype was like a super North Star. And then all of us, me, Paul, X, Benny, Dave Myers, Benny Boom. That's
Benny
my
Boom.
man.
Yeah.
And I think we were all in a friendly competition. We were in a friendly competition in the most beautiful way, because then we'd see each other in the like, oh, we're in the streets of LA, or we're at this party, or we're at this thing, and then that'd be our first opportunity to chop it up, first opportunity to talk. Then you found like, oh, this brother's cool, or whatever. So, and then as we've grown, we've been like cheering for each other. It was so hard to break into TV, right? So if I did something in TV, I'd get a call from Benny or whatever, like, yo, how did you get over that hump? And I'm trying to, I remember when Benny was trying to get his first TV episode. Same thing with me. I had to be brought in by that. So I think the same thing happened with us as we grew. I remember the first I'll give you a little who we got who is Benny was Hype's first AD.
Okay.
Right.
Mm.
Then Benny, the first big video he got, Puffy called me, and or Diddy now. So Diddy called me and he was like, Chris, I want you to do this video. I think it was Genuine, Mario Winans.
I don't want to know.
No, I did. I don't want to know.
That's right. That's right.
I did. But this was like they were on a bridge. It was dope video. And me and Puff had been working a lot by then. You know, Puff is a extremely demanding executive. So the budget was really the budget was low, right? So I said,
"Oh, word."
The budget was. I mean, we'll see. It's all perspective because I think back then it was like 175, which today for
a movie
young directors,
exactly.
Right. But he had been spending north of 400,000 and still being unsatisfied if you didn't get to the thing, right? So I said, look, man, you're going to be out there yelling and screaming and mad. Why don't you just raise the budget a little bit? So he's like, I can't raise the budget. This song ain't charting, da 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 da. And so I was going to do it, but he moved on and he gave Benny the job. And that video blew Benny up. And Puff called me after that, was like, hey, yeah, you up on the hill at the house on the hill now. You ain't trying to grind no more. Now you got competition. So he dug it in, but you know,
trying to rub it.
Like, yeah. But that was dope because that was Benny's opportunity. And then the other part of that is that Melina was Benny's assistant.
Wow.
Yeah. Benny, she was Benny's assistant. And then I remember there was a video for Ludacris that he didn't do that she did. And then that blew her up. So I think the thing that I appreciate about our era and our community is that all those pieces like connected in some kind of way to push us where we are. We got to just keep going.
So at what point? So, okay, when you are putting flyers in the record stores,
right?
I'll do your video and you start making tracks and start, you know, or you start making traction. At what point do you realize that there's a pivot to this and that maybe you want to start doing something more? Like maybe the next step up is EPKs, and then the next step is commercials, then the next step up is episodes, production company. So for you, what was your first pivot to, hey, there's something more I can do besides a music video?
Yeah, I wish that I could be like, yo, and then I saw the light, you know, but I was so dug in to music videos that I didn't see anything else. Like the start was never, music videos were never a dream. It was making movies, you know, after reading She's Gotta Have It, right?
So you wanted to make movies from the gate?
From the gate.
Okay, wow.
I wrote
okay.
Yeah,
I see.
I wrote a feature script, you know, when I was 20. Of course, it's like every 20-year-old script. There was a story about me, about a kid who went to college, and then, you know, the whole thing, right? So, but then as I was trying to work within the business, because I did all those warehouse jobs and those, you know, janitorial jobs, and I was like, I gotta figure out how to stay in the game. Music videos became a way to make $200. Then it just grew, and the business, I just, timing was right, and the business grew, and I was like, I'm never going back, because I had a couple dollars, and I just was like, I'm never going back to how that felt. You know, being in a guard shack as a security guard with a rat running under the, you know what I mean, in Baltimore. So I just tried to get better and better and better and better and better. And I was embedded in the culture. And, you know, when I went to a bigger company, which was Michel Gondry's company, Partisan, you know, there was an executive there who was like, man, you need to shoot commercials. And it was so funny. I had my one experience. I did Maya and Common for Coca-Cola.
You shot that?
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Right, okay.
Wait a minute,
did.
didn't I talk about that last episode?
Oh yeah.
I think
Maybe.
I did, well, I did the music to that, and anyway, so go ahead.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
didn't know
so,
you directed that, John. I wasn't on
yeah,
the set, but I did the music to that.
of course you did. Exactly. But that experience, it once I did it, it didn't feel good to me because when you do a commercial, every time you do a take, you stop, you have to look back at the agency, and the agency is huddled around the TV,
Oh, it's the
and
worst.
then they tell you if you can move on, even if you can move to the medium shot. And so I've had a few years now of being like the record company just having trust and going, okay, man, thanks.
Just do you.
We're gonna go to lunch while you guys do this. We'll be back later, and just having kind of that full creative power. And what I didn't realize is that, man, you should really make these relationships like LL told me back in the day. Like
Right.
advertising is a thing. You can bring your talent to this world. And because of that executive, I did a lot of stuff. I did Nike and Gatorade. I got to do a lot, but I never enjoyed it. I just wanted to get back to, dealing with, what
I was
did.
going to use this moment to ask, was that the executive, was that Ron Fair micromanaging you? No.
Ron Fair didn't mess with me too much. He was cool.
He's
cool.
probably the reason why I didn't want to go to the commercial shoot. Like he, I have thoughts. I mean, at the time I was like regularly producing Common, so
Right.
I thought, okay, this is going to be my audition to start working with Maya, but I didn't realize that Ron Fair was being brought in to make sure that, like, basically he just coup d'etat the whole thing. And like,
Is he with the advertising company, or is he with the?
no, Ron Fair is the guy who famously
right?
told the Black Eyed Peas, "Look, guys, you could either be a success or you could be the Roots. Which one you want to be?" So,
wait. So what?
when we did when we did the episode, like Ron Fair was Jimmy Iovine's right hand man.
See, this is why we gotta have Will on now to know what if he made the right decision.
Yeah. So,
but okay, so
shout out to Ron Fair. You're still my buddy, but yeah,
I remember Ron Fair used to come with his fedora, and he'd just be
like he's Frank Sinatra.
Right, he'd come through. He didn't bother me too much. But it's just weird, when you think back. Like my focus was so on the work that and until the AD, who we had worked together so many times, shout out Monty Greenlee, he was like, okay, I'd be going on to the next shot, and he'd go, Chris, okay, we gotta stop. We gotta have this conversation with these 18 people. So it was that pivot didn't really happen, like I thought about it and did the pivot. It happened because there was an executive who recognized that.
This is gonna sound real random, but as you're talking, it just made me think. So did the Wire have any effect on you in a way as a director?
No, I remember I used to watch The Wire in the edit facility while I was in LA.
Wow.
Okay.
The only effect that it had on me was everybody going, "Is it really like that in Baltimore?"
Right.
I just thought as a director and being from Baltimore, that it made you go like, maybe there is something else for me outside of these commercials and this video. And I didn't know if that made you feel like.
Well, by the time The Wire came, I was pretty deep in it. Yeah. So I definitely wanted to shoot The Wire, and I had one of the things that I regret to this day is I got a call from Bob Colesberg, who was one of the creators of The Wire. Yeah. And Bob Colesberg said, "Hey man, we heard you from Baltimore. I saw your work. Would you come and do an episode?"
Boy,
and I was like, hell yeah, I'm coming. All right, so this is how you this is what you learn about agents and everything, right?
Okay.
So he invited me to come and direct. And when I talked later to some guys who were on there, like Idris Elba, they had told the actors, like, "Yo, Chris Robinson's coming." They were like, "Yo, dope. We're gonna get this brother to come through." So I had done ATL and I was in post. I mean, I was almost done. I think we were like just doing the sound. And my agent was like, well, Chris, you probably shouldn't do that because maybe Warner Brothers might feel away. And, I'm new. I'm new as far as like working with it's my first movie. And I listened to him. And that was a mistake. But then how God works, I got another call. And I was working on, what was I working on? I was working on some big opportunity, but it was the same thing. Like I was in post and they offered it to me again. And I didn't do it. I couldn't do it. I was in the middle, you know what it was? I was in the middle of a movie that never happened, right? When you do a movie, like they don't pay you, you're on it for a year, and then if it pops, you go. So I was in the middle of this, and once again, I got that advice and didn't do it. So
you be on a movie for a year and they don't pay you? What is this? What is this movie magic?
I'm on 5 right now, Laya.
Y'all gotta let me tell you something. Y'all better tell these people the real story of how this shit happens, because people just think the money is thrown in the beginning, they make a deal, and you're rich throughout the making of it to the end, and then you get stuff on the back end.
To make a movie is difficult, as Quest knows. To make a mediocre movie is difficult. It is brutal to think of all these things that are in your head and how you have to work with a crew of people to make all this stuff work, the personalities, the actors. It's difficult, right? To make a great movie, that director is like
a miracle
genius level, right?
Yeah.
A miracle worker. I always look at these guys when you watch a movie and you are just thoroughly satisfied and go, what did he go through to make this thing happen? And having the experience now, it's difficult. But every movie you see, there's this last movie I did with Shooting Stars.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on that movie for 3.5 years because there's the prep, and then there's we're gonna go. Oh, actually, the studio is gonna push it till next year. Like, that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And the book, the producer got the rights to the book 13 years ago. So wouldn't you would think, oh, it's LeBron James. This is a layup. This movie's gonna get made quickly. It took 13 years for that movie to be made, and I was on it for 3.5. So you have to love it. It's got to be a labor of love. And, that's just what it is.
What takes so long for a movie about the biggest basketball star in the world to be made?
Well, I think from the perspective of
the guys,
the studio, right? They're going, okay, well, does this work in our slate? Because they got all these other movies, and they're making big giant. I'm not saying, I don't think Universal does Marvel, but whatever those big movies are, right? Then there's a lot of they're going for awards on other movies. Just whatever their slate is, where does it fit in? Once it's there, when do we put that movie out? When's it most advantageous? So they're dealing with the business aspect. We're dealing with the creative aspect. How do you tell this story? Because there's been a book, there's been a documentary. Now here's a feature film. What's the tone? How do you tell this? Why do people care? Who can play LeBron James? Let's do that
Great
for
job.
you.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't timing of the essence? Because if you're telling not a cradle to grave, but a childhood to adult story, like the likelihood of your target that you're working with might
get older and then
be past the age of what you need them for. Like, isn't that also a problem?
Well, I think if the person was in it, right? So when we finally found Mookie Cook to play LeBron, he's 17, so once that was really the button pusher, like, can you find LeBron? Like, it's a needle in a haystack. Like, nobody believed. A lot of people just were like, how is this ever going to happen? A lot of people had no idea Caleb McLaughlin could hoop. There needed to be,
right,
for this particular movie, there needed to be an athletic skill level.
I'm so glad he could.
Acting skill level. And I'd worked with Caleb on the New Edition story, so I knew, and he'd been Lion King on Broadway. This kid's pretty amazing, right? So I watched him learn to dance like New
Stranger
Edition.
Things for everybody else who doesn't even know what we're talking about. Okay.
Yeah. Caleb. And but then when he came to the audition, he had handles. He was balling. I pulled him aside. I was like, hey man, what you been doing since I saw you 3 years ago? Like, he could ball for real. And that was a godsend because he's such an amazing actor. And but just to answer your question, like those things, that's real time. Like we didn't do a traditional casting. We did some traditional with Kim Coleman, who's amazing. She does all the big movies. But we actually got in a car and went up and down the East Coast, me and my boy Jerome Hips. And
Jay.
Yeah, Jay.
Oh, Jay Hips.
I didn't know he was that involved. Good gracious.
He ended up coming in and being one of our basketball consultants because he's so into that. And his son plays ball. Yeah, Hips is the man. And we went up and down the East Coast to AAU tournaments and found Mookie and found Scoop.
Wow.
And here's a good story about how videos connect. We met Scoot's dad. Now, Scoot just went number 3 in the draft to Portland Trailblazers.
What? Wait, hold on. Scoot
He plays Romeo in the movie.
Okay.
So he just draft night, he went number 3 to the Portland Trailblazers.
Wow, he was really good too. So
he's good, right?
There was something else in there. I was like, oh, it's more story. Okay, yes.
Yeah. So we meet his dad. Now think we're at an AAU tournament going, excuse me, sir, we're making a movie about LeBron James. And like, it's just me and Hips. There's no official or anybody else with us. And the dad's and his son's gonna go. His son's already in the G League and his son's gonna go pro. He was there with his other kids. He's got other kids who were in the AAU tournament. But Hips knew of his dad. So we're talking to his dad and we do our pitch. And then, after a pitch, how there's a little silence. And we're just standing there looking at each other and he goes, didn't you do one mic? And I was like, yes, I did, sir. Yes, that legitimized me to him to have this conversation about his son being in the movie.
Wow.
And that
dads as hip hop heads. I wish I knew the feeling, man.
That's dope.
I wish I knew the feeling.
Exactly.
Chris, I wanted to ask you about Erica's The Honey video. You did that under an alias. What was the
was that your Alan Smithy? Like
No.
Or were you trying to just establish your company?
A different brand, yeah.
Okay. All right. So
this sounds like what had happened was
let's go.
Erica and I had worked before. Now, let me start this off by saying how much I love Erica Badu. She is not only a wonderful, amazing artist, but she is a icon. So we worked together. And on the first one with Common, I Still Love Her, right? We did that joint.
Love of My Life.
Love of My Life.
Yeah.
Okay, it was Love of My Life.
So, but what I didn't know was like Erica is very involved. Like Erica wants to make the outfit. She wants to cook the lunch. She wants to look at every shot. And we did it. And we got
Alan Smithy. I knew it.
It wasn't. It's now Alan Smithy. So then we worked again on this. So like we had the connection, right? She wanted to work together again. So we worked together again. I had, my company's Robot Film Company. My Instagram handle's Mr. Roboto Director. So now I think this is before Instagram or anything else. But I had, people would call me Mr. Robot or Mr. Roboto. So we did it again. And it was the same thing. But this is the first time she wanted a director's credit. Now, in the video world, there is a thing where a certain artist will want a director's credit. And I took that thing seriously. Like, I'm like, okay, if we're going to co-direct this, cool. But like certain artists would just go, I'm the artist, just put my name on it. And so me and Erica worked together. It was beautiful. It was the most beautiful. We had known each other, so we knew how to work together. And I think we pulled out another good one because she's a genius, especially choosing all those names for the album covers and whatnot.
Yeah.
So then I get a note from the label later that said Erica wants her director's credit on this. And, I was like, what? So, because I take it so seriously. So I was like, well, I mean, if she's gonna get the director's credit, that's cool. I'm just in my artist shit. And I go, I'm gonna put Mr. Roboto, right? Because that's my alias. Mm-hmm. So I put Mr. Roboto, and then we won the damn MTV award. my MTV award, Best Director, does not have my name on it.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Roboto.
Exactly.
That's life lessons. Life lessons.
And like, just to be clear on this amazing podcast, Erykah Badu, I have so much love for you. We've worked together. I've shot her in different, shows, and we always have talked about doing a movie together. But I just think that's this Mr. Roboto represents. I'm an artist, and I'm sensitive about my shit. There it is.
Understandable. Understandable.
You know what I mean?
You did really well with that explanation.
So how? I know you gave that example, and I want to hear. I want to hear if there's a way that you can give cautionary tales without compromising your position or your relationships and whatnot. But just in general, okay, this is a theory that I have now at this stage of my life, which is, I think when we turn 30 or 40, I think in the first 20, 25, 30 years of our life, we take an assessment of, okay, this is pleasurable and this is painful. And so we basically want to just do the greatest hits and let's just take a compilation of all the pleasurable things and then apply that to it. And then we become experts. Like, we know that, if you touch the stove, you're going to get burnt. If you walk across the street without looking both ways, you're going to get hit. So basically it's a bunch, it's a compilation of life lessons. And then that's how you're supposed to proceed on from 40 and above. So for you, are there never again moments for directing in terms of, and I don't mean like I'll never work with this particular person again, but you already know that, like, all right, I can't double book.
Yeah.
That what lessons have you learned that are like never again?
I think that's a crazy question. Just open my brain up. I think it's wanting the gig so bad that you compromise what your vision is. It has never, ever, 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 ever worked for me, right? And
so you said yes to an artist before you even have a solid creative vision for it?
I've definitely done that, and that's worked out. That might be a timing thing, right?
Right.
But what I'm talking about is, like, they go, you take this job, but you have to use this DP, and you have to shoot in this city, or you have to use someone or put a patina on it that we want it to be, right? Now, commercials are different, right? Because an ad agency works on that for a year before you ever get a phone call. So we understand their vision of what they're looking for. But when it comes to something creative, anytime I've attempted to do it, it didn't work, or it wasn't satisfying. So my advice would be never compromise your thought for the money. It just doesn't work. I have a dad thing. As I always tell my son, I go, okay, when I was on JV, I could kick. So we were just in practice and I was kicking, booming the ball. And the coach was like, Robinson, you can kick. You're a lineman. I ain't never seen a lineman kick. I go, yeah, I can kick. So he gives me the job. I'm kicking off. So before that, a coach comes up to me and he goes, hey, man, you're planting your foot all wrong. You got to put your foot closer to the ball so you can get more lift on. So here we go, our first scrimmage against our high school rival. And I go out, I listen to the coach, I plant my foot where he tells me, and the ball goes straight up and straight down. And I get fired. I'm no longer kicking the ball. And that to me is the metaphor of when I'm listening, I'm in my flow. I know how to do this. I know the people I want to use because it's a business and an art form where you collaborate. Yeah. But then somebody tells you not to do what you do. It's
been working for you. Yeah.
Working for you. And the reason you called me is because this is what I do. And I've done it a couple times, regretfully, because the opportunity was so big. And so when they come at you and they go, hey, man, this opportunity is big, you're going to do what we say, it's difficult to turn it down. And if you have enough political acumen that you know how to twist it and turn it to still do what you want to do, cool. I really don't have that gift. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm true to whatever that thing is. So I would say never, ever do that. And I know it's a difficult thing, because opportunities are what they are. But I think that for me is the biggest one.
Are you the type of director, and I don't mean micromanage in that annoying way, like always over your shoulder looking. For me, I feel like the editing is the most important part of your presentation. Like, because editing can be, I know for some would say, well, no, the story concept's the most important part. And some people would say, no, it's actually the look of it, like the art direction, the lighting. Some people could say the shot's the most important part. For me, I fall in love with the editing. I mean, a lot of, 9 times out of 10, I'm working with footage that already exists already. So it's not like I have to shoot all my content. But in terms of storytelling, do you allow your lighting person, your lensman, your editors, do you give them free reign to do what they do, or are you always over their shoulder from soup to nuts, like micromanaging what it is? Like, in other words, like, can you, like, I'm shocked that to this day, like Martin Scorsese gives so much leeway to Thelma Schoonmaker, that he can give his film to her and she knows exactly like how to edit and put things together, and then he thumbs up or thumbs down. But are you that person that has to see it from soup to nuts?
I do in that I'm giving everyone the vision. I'm going, hey, this is how I see it. Before we ever get out there on the playing field and before we ever roll 1 second of zeros and ones, it's not film anymore. So I always like to meet. I like pre-pro. I like setting down. I like looking at references. And I include the editor in that, right? I'll send the treatment. If it was a video, I would send the treatment to the editor before we ever shot, And there were certain guys like Jeff Sellis, amazing dude. And he was like Scorsese's editor to me because I could give him, when we were shooting 2 videos a week back in the day, I had to have trust, to go, all right, here's this. I'm going to shoot this. When I get back, we'll talk. And Jeff, 90% of the time, he would hit it, So, but those kind of relationships are few and far between, right? So in videos, I work with like 4 or 5 different editors. And
okay. Yeah. How many, when you were in the eye of the storm of video making, how many videos, well, you said a week, how many videos a month would you book?
Well, I know this. For 3 years in a row, I hit between 48 and 50 videos.
Wait,
Wait, say that. Wait, say it again. One more time.
For 3 years in a row.
Right.
And I know this because that's when I had left Partisan, left HSI, and I had my own company. I did between 50 videos a year to 50, probably like the year I did the most videos were like 56. So that was doing
about
about a video a week.
Yeah,
And
for 3 years.
I had 3 rotating producers who only work with me. I had about 5 rotating editors, and my executive producer Roseanne, which I told you earlier is she really managed all that well. And it was, go ahead, Chris, get on a plane, go. And I would have to show up and do my job. And it was such a beautiful time that we were able to do it and still keep the integrity of the art, right? Because I was big on that too.
No vacation, Christo, in 3 years.
Man, let me tell you, I was upset if people wanted to take a vacation. I remember, listen.
You are the roots.
I had this guy, Michael Lucero. I don't know if you guys know.
I know this name, yes.
Yeah, Michael Lucero was amazing. He's passed, rest in peace. Michael Lucero did 93 Till Infinity. He did that video. Yes, he did Busta and Dirty. And when I first had a company interested in me, which is where I met Roseanne, she was the executive producer of his company. It was called What You See Is What You Get. And they were in San Francisco. So I flew out from Baltimore to San Francisco, met them, and the whole nine. Well, he was such a good dude. He was kind of like one of these guys who climb mountains and, kind of that kind of dude, but an amazing director.
As you can see in that video. Okay.
Yeah. Learned a lot from him. Learned how to write treatments, but such a good man. But every year he would take us on vacation. And we were going to Mexico. He would take the company on vacation. And the first year I was there, I wasn't really, getting a lot of work. And I was pissed that they wanted to take a vacation. And he wanted to fly me and pay for my room. And I did not go. And I was like, who's taking a vacation? We need to work. So I was a little over-indexing, I would say back then, because I wanted it so bad. And, there's great photos that Robin Frank, who was my rep, has sent to me recently, like of that trip that I missed.
That you could have did.
That I could have been at. I was sitting at home in Baltimore kvetching about, not working instead of like going on vacation. Exactly.
So can you walk me through the process? Because I'm learning now that in order to be creative, you should really dedicate, or at least for me, what works for me is a lot of silence, a lot of solace, a lot of silence. I used to be the type of person that sort of reveled in chaos. Right. But I realized like during the pandemic, then every idea came to me and suddenly inspiration came. So, okay. So in the eye of that storm. So, all right, let's go to 2005. Okay.
Right.
Like how long do you sit with, and I'm going back to videos because I feel like videos are harder than movies because you basically have 4 minutes to tell a story and really knock it out the park. So what is your process? How long do you sit with a song? Do you sit with a team of people and think of ideas? Do you look at the physical build of the person? Do you get to know them and see if they're athletic, if they know how to run, if they know how to drive a car, like what they're in? Like, how do you know? And I have a follow-up to that question, but just walk me through the basic, like how long do you sit with a song before you suddenly see what it is?
It for music videos, man, it's different. It depends on what the song truly inspired me, right? So a script will inspire you, but the song really would inspire me. For instance, when I heard, I received Noriega song. What?
Super Thug.
Right.
So Super Thug. I got Super Thug. I wrote that in 20 minutes because I had this idea about camels in the desert.
I'm about to say, it's a desert.
It'd been around for a long time in my head. It was rolling around in my head. So I wrote that, and it's funny because my rep was like, "This is the quickest treatment you've ever written. Are you sure you want me to turn this in?" And I was like, "Yeah, this is it," because I was a little notorious for sending in a treatment late because of exactly what you're describing of taking your time,
living with it.
So when I received "You Don't Know My Name" from Alicia. I remember sitting in the house.
It's a good one.
8 hours just listening to it. And I kept almost getting it. Then I flew to LA and I had an assistant. Her name was Nia Andrews. She's in music. Like her dad was in, he wrote "Oh Freak Out." Like he's part of that legacy. So we drove around LA for 8 hours. I remember we went to Malibu. We just were listening to this song on repeat. And then later that night, she called me and she goes, "Well, what about, and then the idea." So it would ping pong back and forth. So there's some things I would do totally solo. There's some things, Jesse Terrero used to be my assistant, good brother, and one of my best friends. And he may come up with something. Neil Feldman was an assistant of mine, or I'd give him the outline and do it. But I'd say a good 70% of the time, it was just me dipping out. I got a house in Maryland, sitting on the back porch and playing it in the headphones and just vibing. And sometimes that could take me 2 days, 3 days.
Can I just say, since you mentioned the Alicia Keys video, did you have everything in your head, even the casting of that video, when you were thinking of the concept of "You Don't Know My Name"?
And did Mos Def show up on time?
Listen, I don't remember. I remember. I don't
Nigga, you remember.
Yes, you do.
Play.
Listen, he's an artist, brother. He's an
Right.
artist. He look, never on schedule, always on time.
There you go.
Through.
Yeah.
Represented.
But did you think so in your mind? Did that come out the deck directly where you wanted it, the players and everything, or that just came later?
I really truly can't remember how most became involved. But Alicia's very, she still is and she was. She lives that whole complete life, right? So she wasn't just down for some video model, coming through. She wasn't down for people all up in her mouth, kissing her. Even no matter what the concept was, she was very focused on, being authentic, telling the story, but also being respectful in her life versus just the art. And I've known most through my boy Set Free, another Philly cat, for a minute.
Set
Free.
Free.
Set Free. Yes.
Set Free. Shout out to Set Free. And I just truly can't remember, but when he came through, I was so happy because I loved the movies he'd been in, and he was down. It was not a lot of money involved in it or anything like that. He just came through and represented. And, I still think that video, I should create a movie. Because I love Frankie and Johnny, Al Pacino.
Right.
I think it would be so dope to do that. And we shot at Pan Pan in Harlem. And Pan Pan's not there anymore, right? So that brother made the best.
I miss Pan Pans.
Yeah, Pan Pan was dope.
Oh, wait.
I miss it, man.
So since you mentioned that, Chris, what's another video you feel that way about that you could have just continued on and it could have been a whole movie?
Chris did so many videos, I forgot he did my video. I'm sitting here like, wait a minute. I think Chris directed the Roots video, and I did. Oh shit! Because when you said The Wire, I was like, wait a minute. A couple of Wire cats are in my video for Break You, and then
that's right. But
there you go.
I produced that video. Jesse Terrero directed that video, so I was there, and we did the thing under the bed and the whole joint. But it was that was dope. I love that video.
When you see, how did you transition when the era of kind of the big budget videos just kind of pretty much evaporated. How did you and other directors, how did y'all transition during that period?
Went to movies.
Listen.
And what was that like, man? Kind of seeing that ecosystem just kind of dwindle.
You are, man, it's such a great question.
A really good question.
Like, is YouTube your Napster?
Oh yeah, Napster is my Napster, because Napster
Right.
is the reason the video budgets disappeared too. And I'll tell you, man, once again, I wish I could say I saw it coming, but we did not. And I remember literally there was like a week where the bottom dropped out. I think fortunately I'd already like maybe started working with Kevin on Real Husbands or whatever it was. But my bread and butter, it was chopped at the knees. And it was very much like, I almost thinking it was a joke at first. Like, labels would call and go, yeah, we got X. And I'd be like, really? Now, okay, so what is it really? Because this artist and what they, the budget you telling me is what they need for their, writer,
right.
like what this artist is. So I think, for me, it was just a very difficult switch, but I started to understand it. And I actually would call people. I'd call all the people I met over the years and go, like, yo, what's going on? Like, what's happening? Like, I didn't understand the ramifications of Napster and digital and all that stuff. I was still going to the record store getting CDs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
See, I think, in the music business, many people look at Usher's Confessions as the last album of that era. I mean, it was the last album it's the last brick and mortar album where it sold 10 million units.
Wow.
And then, like it came out in 2003, and then kind of Napster or the age of ripping and all that stuff really came into play. But I also feel like I have a theory that maybe for the video world, even though it wasn't financially responsible, I kind of feel like the Rock the Boat video really marked an end, even though other opulent videos were made kind of after. But I feel like the effect of the Rock the Boat video and kind of what it represented, like just the whole thing with Aaliyah's death, flying to other locations, private planes, big budgets, on a boat, on a yacht, It kind of, I definitely remember a moment where that just kind of paused the whole entire industry for a second. So even though it wasn't like a direct thing where it's like, like a 9/11 thing that changes the world, or a January 6th thing, like where you can literally see a tangible thing. But I always wanted to know, like in the video world, was that a moment that gave you personal pause? Like,
yeah, I agree, man. You just mentioned that, and it was like your soul, was like put on pause. And I think we all had been moving at 100 miles an hour for so many years, and have had all these relationships, and were so deeply entrenched in, going for excellence, that we didn't realize the, how precious life is, right? Because we so indexed on working. An example is when the pandemic happened, and I was home for 3 weeks, and I was bugging out a little bit. I realized that I hadn't been anywhere for more than 2 weeks for 20 years. Right? So I had to stop moving around. And I'm sure you guys went through that same thing.
Oh, yeah.
And to your point, when that video happened and all those things happened, there was the party almost stopped. Right? There was a halt because we all felt like Aaliyah was our little sister, her little cousin, and we loved
Mm-hmm.
her. It was a different kind of a feeling when that happened. And we're all jumping on planes and jumping on private planes, and we're moving. I've been to Brazil to shoot, and we never really took we never thought about safety and what could happen. And I think, look, that's just something that happens in life. And I think it just was business as usual for us to achieve a great art form. I think I think that video is beautiful. And I think, of course, because Hype was not only, Hype himself as an artist wasn't only a music video director, he was like our North Star. And he was tight with these artists and had relationships with these artists in a way where, a Hype Williams video could change your life as a musical artist, right? And it just felt like all of our business, all of our craft took a moment to breathe in when that happened. So I agree with you, man. It was tragic and beautiful at the same time.
What artist makes you always go back to the drawing board because they just don't see it in the paragraph that you're explaining?
But it's a good challenge. It's a good challenge.
Yeah, no.
Or an annoying challenge.
I immediately know two artists. It's Busta Rhymes.
I was going to say that's a good challenge. That's a good challenge.
Busta Rhymes is a visual. You want to talk about somebody who's paying attention to the visual? I mean, and wants to call you at 2 a.m. because he's on that time as a musician in the studio.
Yo, God, I don't understand.
Exactly. I don't understand why you didn't pick the phone up at 2 a.m. Like, he is, to his credit. I mean, on his tribute, I was looking at the Janet Jackson video that he did, and that thing is crazy. Just woo-ha. Everything he does has a visual component to it. So what happens is he likes the first treatment too, but then you get there and he's in the details. He's going classic Busta Rhymes and Bust. I love you, you my man, and we already know what it is. Classics only. But when we did Pastor Cavassier, that was each setup was a conversation. Like Diddy's fight scene he felt was better than his fight scene, and he wanted to re-choreograph the fight scene to make sure that it's his video. So I get it. So we re-choreographed that fight scene in that room. Now, at the time, when the clock is ticking and you're going to go into overtime and you've written the treatment and you've done the costume design and you've got all the martial artists who are going to be in it and you have the moment, that seems like a request that is going to be tough to create. But it doesn't matter because we still did it. And when you look at that video, when I look at that video, I go, wow, we probably had 65% of that on paper, 65% of that planned. And what Busta will do is he's not just making arbitrary requests. He's so deep in it that he's pushing you. He's pushing for greater. He's pushing for better. So he's not the guy who just disappears and goes and smokes. He's on the set, sitting in the director's chair, looking at playback. And as you're moving through your day as a director, there's certain time things you have to hit. But interestingly enough, I think we did shoot like an extra 8 hours on that video.
So do you already have overages written in the budget? Do you already have overages written in the budget when you know?
That is what you try to do, right? And then, like, once again, my executive producer, Roseanne Cunningham, that's what you try to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is you cannot predict some things. Now, the tough conversation that I've seen many times is when the producer goes over to the, music video rep and goes, okay, we're having this, it's this much time, or Chris wants a crane, the crane broke and we have to bring in another one, whatever that is. the record label has to sign off to say, okay, cost plus. If the crane costs you another $10,000, we'll pay for it. And usually that's where the power shifts, right? Because the power shifts because we already have a contract.
Right.
So no matter what happens, I need to do what's on this treatment to fulfill the contract to get paid. Like, that's just a reality of the business that is really the only way that you can do it, right? Because you have to make sure that it's done. But there's extenuating circumstances that I've seen over the years. But if the artist and the label are like down with you, right? You can change things a little bit to accomplish the same goal. But I think Busta is he understands it early. He understands, like, okay, even if this treatment is we've got to move quickly, so this treatment is a blueprint, we're going to get it where it needs to be once we get there.
I gotta know the politics of video joints.
Oh, you got agencies.
Come on now.
Amir, you got agencies now.
Yeah.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying, look, their entire magazines made up. There's entire careers and Instagram accounts that have made legends out of the right 7 seconds in a video.
I know that thing. Is that still a thing? No, y'all think that feels like an error.
I don't think videos are.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Ain't no more Esther Baxter. I'm thinking of like.
Right.
So, but the thing is that by this era, even video models have just as much leverage as the artists themselves. And so how do you wrangle, like, and I'm not trying to objectify like their product placement, but is it written ahead of time? Like, okay, I'll make sure that, when you're wrangling with her manager, whoever it is.
Ooh, Gloria Vallis. She was a good one too.
Like, dude, when Grace was at Jive, like Grace was responsible for like from Kareen all the way down, like all those videos. So, but she told me that she was there to not only wrangle, but also to protect them. You know what I mean? And so, but I didn't realize that there's like negotiations where this particular artist has a certain cachet and she wants to be featured and da 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 da.
Oh, a feature girl versus a.
Is that just decided, or is it random, or is it already pre-planned at the gate? Like, okay, we'll make sure that you're the featured, and we're not going to feature your rival that you might have beef with in said video, or is it just like up to the artist who gets in or not?
No, listen. In my experience, it's always been. This is going to be a boring answer. It's always been like casting on a feature film. Now, you would think like, oh, that's kind of random, or you look at it and you go, that must be random. Where'd they get all those girls from, a club? No. The answer is there's a casting director, Ulysses Terrero, Jesse's brother, is one of the best that ever.
Wow. Okay.
And at that point, there was an era where those young ladies that were, video vixens or whatever you want to call them, it was a portal, right? So now you decide, like there's very memorable moments of different video vixens in videos, right? So, but then it's literally a portal. Like, think about every actress who does
shout outs to Melissa
commercials. Shout outs to Melissa Ford. I mean, you want to talk about the Hype Williams of video vixen? Like, she was dope. That Jadakiss video, Knock Yourself Out. Like, she's amazing. But let's talk about her. The portal. Now she is in another part of the business. Now she does podcasts. Now she was part of that era with the magazine with Daytwan Thomas and creating
King. Shout out to Daytwan.
King. You know what I mean? And then let's talk about Lauren London. The first thing she did was she was Paul Hunter's assistant. Number one.
Okay.
She was in Drop It Like It's Hot, which is a music video. She was in Pharrell's video.
Frontin'.
And my assistant at the time, brother named Carl Reed, they were friends. And he goes, Chris, you should audition Lauren for ATL. And I said, absolutely not. No way.
Oh,
I'm not.
okay.
I'm not. I'm not having a video girl. I'm trying to be a serious filmmaker. So, but he was like, look, man, you got to just be a good brother, man. You got to give her a shot. She wants to be an actress. And she came in, and it's a great story because she came in and she was late. We had packed the film equipment up, right? Oh, wow. She came in and she goes, I gotta pee. Can I go to the bathroom? So she delayed us further by having to go to the bathroom. Okay. So I'm just sitting there looking at Carl like, see, okay. And we said action. And I had been looking for Nunu for probably 8 to 10 weeks.
Wow.
And it was her. Done.
Oh. Wow. Was it true in ATL that a lot of Big Boy's lines, did he improv a lot of that, or how did that work?
Because we got it. I wanted to ask about. I know that.
Let me tell you something. When he said, "You didn't do that money in my face," we all, the whole crew was like, try not to laugh. Big Boy is genius with his ad libs, and the way Big Boy was moving was, you know, he's Big Boy. He's from Outkast. He didn't really understand, you know, oh, it's a 6 a.m. call. You have to be there, all these things. And he would come directly from the studio to set, not having slept or whatever it was. And every day I'd be worried. Every day he delivered. Every scene, you know, he always added that extra something that was beyond the script. Yeah, he ad-libbed a lot of that stuff, and he's a G.
How was it with T.I.? Because that was him. I don't think that was his first. Was that his first feature?
It was.
It was. How was it working?
First acting role.
Actor. Yeah.
It was similar in the fact that he wasn't. He never worked on a set before, so you know, me and him. I did his very first video. I'm serious before before track music. Yeah, exactly. So so I was always like, man, this kid is dope. And Dallas Austin was like, I think T.I. could really play this role. So Tip I think he came in the first day in a Rolls Royce, and he came to set. He pulled up for the set with his Rolls Royce, and then he had a big, like, you know, when it's a movie, it's favored nation. So every actor has the same kind of a trailer. Then he had his own Winnebago, and all the other actors were in like a 2-banger. So, you know, I talked to him and I said, brother, you know, you're leading this. Like, this is, everybody's looking to you. You are number one on the call sheet. So, I mean, in our other world, in your music world, because he's in the studio every night too, he's super popular. He's becoming the king of the South. I just had a conversation with him, and we just got on the same page about work ethic, coming in, being the leader, because we're all looking to you as the lead in this picture. And, you know, I think the hardest part for any artist is not being T.I. or being Tip to your audience, being Rashad, who is in high school, a guy who just got out of high school, who has got to show vulnerability. But I think what we both learned for each other, because both of our, you know, you can never do your first movie again, right? So everything was bet on Tip for me. Everything for Tip was bet on me. Like, so we both had to, you know, we're going to win the Super Bowl. The quarterback and the receiver better be connected. I'm sorry, all references. So, you know, I think we did a good job. I think it's, you know, people still reference it and still love it. And I watched him turn into a superstar. That's the one human being I watched turn from a really hot commodity into a superstar through that process.
That's what's up.
And how did you know that Evan Ross was right for that role?
He, you know what? he came in the audition. I didn't know who he was. I met him in Los Angeles, and I didn't know he was Diana Ross's son until we were shooting.
I have one more question about videos.
Mm-hmm.
And be honest about the mind state of directors. I know you're saying I can only speak for myself.
Right.
But half the time, do you guys already have treatments in your head or stock footage pre-shot already that you're just waiting for the right artist to sell that on?
No.
Like, in other words, is every video a bespoke kind of customized video? I'm only asking this because, you know, I had a situation with, I don't know if you know who Sanji is.
Of course.
He did Far Side's Pass Me By.
Yep.
And
it's amazing.
Dude, always wanted to work with Sanji. And we finally got our chance to work with him on our Tipping Point record. And my manager was always like, something right here. Like, why do I feel like...
Hold up. Wait a minute.
We did the Star video.
Oh, I was wondering which one. Okay.
And Rich is like, why do I feel like he shot this video already and just basically sold us a bit? Because the thing was, we weren't there for it. When you talked about shooting your B shots without the artist first, I was like, wait a minute. That might be a Sanji trick. On which it's my manager, Rich Nichols, rest in peace. It's his assessment that we got. And basically, like, he had already shot the video already and sold it to us. And he just shot our shots like at the end for a day or whatever. But is that typical for like, do you do stock shooting of stuff like, you know, like neighborhood shots or just random things that doesn't have a home yet? Is that a thing?
No, I listen. In my experience, no, I'm just kidding. I don't.
You got to go watch this video again, Chris. I think they might have got. Amir might be right.
Look, I think everything is bespoke for every director. One reason is, the label owns everything. So when we would finish a video, you would see 2,000 feet of it, but we'd send the whole 20,000 feet of film to the label. So I don't know if and that's when we were shooting film, but the label owns everything, period, point blank. But
I mean, like,
right. Okay.
Back in the day, like, all my reels go to the label, but now if I turn in a record, I'm just turning that record. They're not getting the demos and the stuff that didn't make the record.
Right.
They're supposed to.
Here's what's funny. I always talk to my producer and I say, what we should do? And it's exactly what you said. I said, when we shoot a video, why don't we have this concept? Because let's say this. For every video you shoot, you wrote there's 5 videos I didn't get, right? I'm battling Hype, Benny. We're all battling each other. So for every video I did, there were 5 concepts that are sitting on my shelf. I always thought it would be a genius idea to shoot all the components of a video and then put the artist in it. But you never really could do it because everything has a certain vibe. Every song has a certain vibe. Like I said, I thought that would be a great idea, and maybe artists would like it, where you could go, hey, here's a video and here's how we would insert you in it. I always wondered that. Never had the opportunity to do it, but
you should watch this video.
Watch Star, because
I hate Roots videos.
I just rewatched it. I was like, wait.
Really?
Shut up, like. Anyway, let's talk New Edition, please, so we can wrap up.
I just wanted to know about New Edition as a director, from your vision. First of all, what were you have to have these things in place for you to direct this project? You have to have power over this. Like, did you have any of those moments?
Wait, can I add something to your question?
Yeah.
Before,
please.
Okay. Do you remember when someone did All right, you remember how the guy who did the Bel Air thing like actually pitched?
Yeah.
Hey, why don't we do a dramatic? And he did like a sizzle reel or a fake trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There was once a fake trailer for the New Edition biopic that was like roaming on you in the early days of YouTube, like back in 2006. Did you have anything to do with that?
I did not.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I met the brother.
All right. Okay.
I met the brother. And let me tell you what else. He showed up on set with Maurice Starr.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
He came. So look, God bless him. That's a Hollywood lesson, man. Like I've been the same way early in my career. Like, yo, I'm just going to shoot this sizzle. And then they'll know that
I'm the guy for the job.
I did it 7-8 years ago. I shot an ATL2 trailer. I got everybody together, paid for it. Me and Tip.
Yo, I remember seeing it. Yes, okay.
We're trying to create momentum. So studio would say, "Hey, man, yeah, we'll make it." It was an effort to show all those people together again. So nothing has come of it as of yet. We hope that we can make ATL2. But I do remember that quest. And I met that brother, and he was a young director, and he was really dedicated to wanting to make that happen. And, I didn't have anything to do with it, but I do know that he got so far as he showed up with Maurice Starr.
And what did they want?
No, Maurice Starr, of course, we invited him to set.
Okay.
To see, to watch, but he was there with him, and I actually had a conversation with him.
Ooh, his heart must have been so broken. Oh Lord,
it's tough. It's tough, but that is a Hollywood 101 lesson that's hard to get. But I think he's still pursuing the art. He's still pursuing directing, and I think look, it was dope for him to do that, right? He had the love, and he just he came up with it, and he goes, "I'm going to do this." The fact that he made that happen, and I got to go back and look at it, but I remember thinking, this is pretty good. You know what I mean? Before I was ever involved in any New Edition project.
I kind of thought that was the impetus that allowed this to happen, because that thing was so viral that about a year or two later, then it was like, yo, we're really going to make this happen. I thought he was a part of that. So
no, you know what? I knew about this project. Jesse Collins produced it. So okay. Jesse told me about this maybe 7 years before we shot it. Okay. Right? He had the project, obviously, he does BET Awards and everything. And so he got with them. So you can imagine, in order to develop it with all those human beings to do the life rights and to come together, it took that long. So about 7-8 years later, I remember the New Edition was my first concert. 15, Spectrum, Philadelphia. I went to see New Edition, Lisa Cult Jam. I think it was the Fresh Fest. And, stole the car from my parents, did the whole thing. So,
well, you can't just casually say that. What? What?
Yeah, that was my first concert as a kid. Like, I loved New Edition.
Did you get away with it?
I did not.
What was the punishment?
I didn't steal the car. I took the car when they told me no. And I drove all my cousins up there.
Worse.
It's bad. We got the car towed. One of my uncles had to drive from Maryland to Philadelphia to get us. It was silence on the way back. It was worse than Vanessa on the Cosby Show.
I was just thinking about that episode. Literally thinking about that episode.
We'll explain, Bill and Steve. Go ahead.
But I'm sorry.
I watched the Cosby Show.
Hey.
That's right. Your mom's Jamaican.
Edition?
It was shit. What was your question about New Edition?
Did you get away with it?
No, did not. But when I finally did it, I made sure my uncle and my dad got to see it, and they were like, "Okay, it was worth it." You know what I mean?
How long was your initial treatment? Because I'm almost certain it was the 3-parter, right?
Three nights, 2 hours.
I'm almost certain that you had enough content for almost an entire week. Like your original vision, how long would it have been?
Well, the script, the original script was one big script, right? It was like 160 pages. And then Stephen Hill and BET said, look, we want this to be like an event. We want this to be 3 nights. So the writer Abdul, who's amazing, we started that process. So Jesse told me about it 7 years prior. All those 7 years, I was like, man, I wish I could do that New Edition movie. And then he asked me, would you be interested in doing this? I was like, yes. So it's interesting because this was 2015, 16. I just decided to move back to the East Coast. So I had a house out here, the whole thing. We shut the house down, gave up the lease, and I was headed to the airport when he called me to say, would you want to do this movie? It's a green light with BET. We start next week. So I had to change everything that I was doing, stay out here. And, but so then it happened. And then we worked for maybe 6 months before we started shooting. So I think one of the questions was, how did we pull all those actors and whatnot together? And that was a real casting thing with Robbie Reed.
Yes, Robbie Reed.
Robbie Reed, Spike Lee's casting agent for years and years.
We gotta get her on the show.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's amazing. It's just so for each person, like Woody McLean, who's now doing his thing.
Yeah.
He's killing them.
Yes.
He used to be a dancer for Chris Brown.
What? Wait.
He was a dancer for Chris Brown before he had ever acted in anything. So I had called Fatima Robinson to go, hey, do you know anybody who I'm looking for Bobby Brown? And she gave the reco for Woody. Then we saw Woody, and Wood was really like, he was a dancer, so he wasn't used to acting. He was rather shy, but he could dance his ass off. He could do all the Bobby Brown stuff. And we had the conversation, and I just was like, listen, I'm going to bring you back for like the 3rd audition. Be bold, brother. Like,
he's not an actor.
Believe it. And then but look what he's done.
Yes.
Like, that's what I always say. Like, that's something that me and Jesse Terrell always said. Like, a lot of times we weren't able to work with the big actors in our career. Like, they weren't checking for us as directors. They always looked at us as video directors. So we said, let's make our own star. Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that we, had that kind of blockade because it spawned other things.
Because he was Bobby for a long time, to the point where when he got to Power, I was like, I don't know, but now he's Kane.
Right. Because he did New Edition, and then he did the Bobby Brown stuff.
Yeah.
He killed it.
Yeah. I feel the same. I guess you must have felt very strongly about Algie in that way, the actor that played Ralph Tresvant, because you've circumvented him back into a couple of projects, right? At least I know he was in Shooting Stars.
Yeah. No, listen, it's always a curveball, right? I was like, I didn't see it. I didn't see Algie as Ralph Tresvant. Because there were people that looked a lot more like Ralph Tresvant.
I could see that,
yeah. And I didn't see it, but then Jesse really believed in it. And I was like, okay. And then when he came to the part in the audition where they would sing, Algie can sing. And I was like, I mean, listen, I was torn all the way up until we were shooting. And then he did it. Like, he killed it. I think for him too, like this.
Wait, he came to life on the set. So even pre-shooting, you still weren't sure?
I wasn't sure. Because we had let this guy go that I'm talking about. If there was a Ralph Tresvant twin, but obviously Algie embodied the character. Like he had a sensitivity, no pun intended. He could dance, he could sing. And even the tone of his voice was just perfect. And
I need something specific from you, Chris. I'm so sorry.
Yes,
And as you're
yes.
telling me stories about this casting, I need you to please tell the story of why you casted Dustin Felder for Jimmy Jam. May he rest in paradise for fucking ever. Like,
Yes,
please,
yes,
please, please,
yes.
please.
Listen, Dustin Felder he was our acting coach for the kids. Right?
What?
Yes, that's what he
was our
does.
acting coach.
That's what he
And
did, yeah.
his energy was just grounded and real, like the exact kind of person that the way I wanted to communicate to the boys. And we would have sessions where I would just be in the corner quiet, and the way he spoke to them and the way he talked to them about performance and being real, you watched them more, because these were all guys who were kind of afraid, right? Because not only is this material tough, the real guys are visiting
right there,
the rehearsal. Right. Like they did the dance, like they
Intimidating,
came,
right?
You know what I'm saying? And then what Dustin would do would be amazing. And we were looking for like Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and I would look at him every day and go, man, you could be Jimmy Jam. You know what I'm saying? Like you could do it. And we'd laugh about it. And then one day he wore a fedora, and I go, it's a wrap.
Wow.
It's him. Let's go.
Yes.
And all the
Justin,
boys were like campaigning for him too. Like all the guys who were played New Edition, they were campaigning for him too. And it was a natural fit, man.
He's really coached some amazing Black actors out of LA. Like there's a generation of Black actors that have a lot to give to him. So, and he's from Philly, and he's a Philly man. He's a Philly guy.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Oh, that's born and raised all day. Yes, yes.
That's what's up.
I heard a rumor that you were you one of the initial actors that I guess for a long time, both Will Smith and Kevin Hart were going to do Uptown Saturday Night. Did I not hear your name tossed in there as a director?
I'm glad you're telling me, because I heard about that project too. I think Will Packer was involved in it, and that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Wow.
Favorite movies of all time. And it a few years ago, it was going around Hollywood that was happening. I haven't seen the script yet, but man.
Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of scripts, Chris, with the writer's strike that's going on now, how with you as a director, how does that affect you, one, and two, how do you think it affects the future of filmmaking as a whole? Where do you think the game is right now, and where do you think it's headed?
I think we're having a Napster moment, and I think it's completely, people can't imagine what that the industry would change, right? But writer strike, for instance, right? I still get, ATL was 18 years ago. I still receive residuals from that, right? Because the business model was, okay, we saw it in the movies, now we see it on TV, now we see it in the airplane, now we see it in Africa. That's the way TV has always worked. Now it's streaming. So streaming for us too, for Directors Guild, for everybody is, well, no streamer wants it to ever go anywhere else. It's a subscription model.
Yeah.
This is only available here. So I think what we're looking at is going, wow, like the business changed. What is it? How do you figure it out? It's the Wild Wild West to a degree. And I think, there are some streamers who got it figured out, at least the best that it can be, but it will never be what it was. And I think just like with videos, it took a long time to go, maybe I should stop making horseshoes because they're driving cars around and there needs to be tires, right? It's a long way to look at the way content is valued. So what is that? That's what I'm telling you is just a realization I had recently. Maybe, I've been so involved and so in the marketing and everything with Shooting Stars and the edit right up until it came out that I wasn't even really on the page. But then when I've been having some conversations, it's like, I don't quite understand the answer yet or what it means, So to answer Quest's question, the world is not my oyster. You know what I mean? I don't think the world is an oyster for anybody right now because we don't know where the opportunities are shrinking, right? There's a statistic in the DGA that of every member that makes a feature film, 85% only make one.
Yeah.
This is before any of this, right? So that tells you how difficult it is to make a feature and how slim the opportunities are. 85% of the union makes one feature film and not another one.
It's the same. So, it's almost the same on the SAG side as well. Like on our side, it's like you have your Tom Cruises or whatever, but then the other 90% is, you know, people struggling to get commercials or whatever, you know.
That's why I be saying, Amir, you got to keep your ear to the street, because if you keep it in the bubble, you're going to think it's sweet. But nah, it's people are out in LA, shit is changing and you feel it.
Yeah, it's tough, you know, but it's interesting, right? Because that's the thing about the business, even if once you're in it for a long time, for me is that every day there's the opportunity for possibility, right? And that can keep your motivation flowing. It can keep you wake up every morning, there's a possibility of writing that script or moving forward. But I think that what we have to look at are great examples of the business aspect of it. Mm-hmm. You know, when we look at Amir and how he does things, how we look at Tyler Perry and he does things, Lee Daniels, these guys who have Kenya Barris, these guys who have taken their talent, understood how it works in business and how to play the game. Mm-hmm. And me personally, I've always been leaning more towards the artist side, right? And having reps and agents and things and just happy to be able to be creative. Because at some point as a creative, you go, man, I couldn't live any other way. Like I couldn't have another job, you know what I mean? And that satisfaction of when something that you create connects to your audience, right? But I think that because of the way that the world and the technology is moving, there needs to be more of a focus on understanding the business, not even just from a Hollywood perspective, but from a Wall Street perspective. Mm-hmm. You know, how content is being valued, how the business model of subscriptions are different.
Yeah.
And I think it's still happening.
Collapsing into one another, like with Max HBO becoming Max and Showtime collapsing into Paramount. And it just reminds me a lot of what happened with major labels, like when you said the Napster moment.
Well, sir, dude, thank you. This is long overdue.
Nah, man, I just wanted to say, Chris, I really just appreciate your work, man, and I love the way just to watch how a lot of the directors I follow, my guy Seath Man, who I'm sure you know, Seath.
Seath.
Seath. Yeah, The Wire, Seath, Anthony Hemingway.
Anthony Hemingway.
Yeah, just a lot of y'all brothers, man. I'm just really proud to see y'all transition and just keep working, man. I just love what y'all do. So respect.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, brother. Thank you, man. Respect.
Absolutely. That's what's up. On behalf of Sugar Steve and Unpaid Bill and Fonticolo and Lightyear and the great Chris Robinson. Man. I love your work. I love your songs that you do with your brother Rich and all the Vicks Formula 44.
All right.
That's dope.
That was for Dustin. I just wanted to show it on the YouTube. There we go.
That's right. We are on YouTube now. Damn.
Dope. Congratulations.
Yes. I still don't know how that works for us. We're still on our soft launch. Anyway, this is great, Chris Robinson, and we'll see you on the next go round, y'all. Peace.
My brother. Peace. Thank y'all.